Thunder mishing it up around the back, trying to barge her way through past Auckland. No luck there. In the meantime, Auckland doing the same thing, trying to slip past Godzilla, and she is through for lead jammer.
Yeah, good defence at the back of the pack from Rutherford in particular.
Thunder copping a very hard hit there by
Booger, that is there. Booger and Rutherford teaming up beautifully there as Mackenzie with some strong jamming, looking to push her way through for some points here.
Thunder still trying to make her way through on her initial pass.
Godzilla doing some good work at the front. Thunderslup makes her initial pass now. And Mackenzie is through for a full 5-point pass though, and has the lead here, looking to score more points. Picks up a couple more on that pass and calls it off. Or just one more, in fact, on that pass. Good jam there for Auckland.
And the thing I've really noticed here this morning already is that those who are here with Bont are lighter, stronger, and faster, Mike, man. That is how Bont rolls.
We're going to see Renwick jamming here for Auckland.
She's up against Holly Funk from Newcastle. Holly Funk trying to cuddle her way through the back there. However, Auckland running backwards, forcing her to go halfway back to the previous turn.
Renwick, meanwhile, picks up lead jammer as the Newcastle blocker heads to the penalty box.
Holly Funk through for her initial pass, but she's a good half lap behind.
Renwick running into some solid defence. Reggie Ramjet with a nice hip check.
And Mackenzie from Auckland can't get enough of this jamming action. She's back on the jammer line with baby cup little slice cakes.
It is indeed baby cakes.
I daren't call her a tart though. Newcastle mixing it up, trying to get things out on the pivot line.
It's like sometimes they just look up and see all this space in front of them and think, oh, we can go up there.
Sometimes they come back too. Baby Cakes through for lead jammer. I can't look her in the eye when she comes around that corner though.
Should have had your morning tea, Mel. Mackenzie stuck at the back of the pack. Godzilla all over Mackenzie right now.
Trouble is, of course, that it was muffins for morning tea, and that just isn't compatible. Mackenzie knocked out of bounds by Godzilla. However, she is back in. Godzilla going backwards, falling over, but taking out Mackenzie as well.
Baby Cakes looking for the line up the inside. Skips and jumps, picks up 5 points.
Baby Cakes light and fluffy.
And another 5 points for Baby Cakes there and Newcastle. Great defence from this Newcastle pack. Mackenzie having all sorts of trouble here. License to Kel, Dangerous, Godzilla.
Baby Cakes around for another 5. She's feeling pretty good. Big grin on her face.
Mackenzie, once again, license to Kel, illegal though. Illegal hit on Mackenzie, off to the penalty box.
Mackenzie hops up and just making sure she returns to the pack in the right place, goes all the way back. Sass chasing down Baby Cakes to no avail though. Mackenzie tries to fakie on the outside. No points for that particular pass though.
And Renwick jamming once more for Auckland here.
And she's up against Thunder from Newcastle. Thunder getting caught in an Auckland sandwich there.
Oh, Renwick picks up lead jammer. Good strong jamming at the front. Only had a couple to beat, did it well.
And in the meantime, Arsenal giving some very solid blocking there. Thunder finally managing to make her way through that heavy Auckland defence.
Champagne showers off to the penalty box for Newcastle. Oh, huge hit there. Newcastle's jammer goes flying. Thunder there. Hits the ground hard.
Thank you so much to Spank Alley and Sports Clinic, Physiotherapy and Injury Management, Skiing, Newcastle Entertainment Centre, and of course the officials and volunteers that are here today.
Well, we've got Booger on the jam line for Auckland and Holy Funk for Newcastle.
Referee
Holy
Pombat
Funk.
getting in there nice and early saying, don't hold hands, you lot.
Holy Funk with a false start had to yield there, did so effectively, but it is Auckland with lead jammer through Booger.
It's all about the Booger. Champagne Showers returning to the track there. You're on fire, Mike, man. These early mornings agree with you.
Got used to them in the World Cup. Jet lag and Mackenzie up against Baby Cakes. Baby Cakes, of course, for Newcastle. Mackenzie for Auckland here. Auckland with their pivot in the penalty box.
Mackenzie trying to take the outside line, being forced to the inside instead, but she is through and lead jammer.
Yeah, beautiful work from Mackenzie there. Newcastle, though, following closely behind Baby Cakes.
She's light and fluffy, so she can keep up.
Mackenzie being screamed at by a bench there, just call it. She does so. She had a blocker right at the back of the pack there. Didn't want to give away the points to Baby Cakes.
It is a loud and excited bench there from Auckland. Blockers and players helping out the bench managers.
Well, Booger jamming again for Auckland, and she'll be taking on Debris from Newcastle.
I think Debris is actually from a cheese factory in Newcastle. Debris has made her way through. She's lead jammer.
Booger now gets through as well. Good lap behind, though, as Debris calls off the jam for Newcastle. Solid jamming there. 4 points on the board as we see Newcastle with a healthy lead 10 minutes into the first half. 35 plays 12.
Sterling mathematics there, Mike Mann. These are full-length bouts that we're televising here. Renwick on the jam line for Auckland.
And
she's up against
Holy Funk for Newcastle.
Holy Funk forced out of bounds there, having to return behind the players that put her out of bounds. But she is through as lead jammer. Snuck that one in, didn't she, Mike Mann? Holy Funk through for 5.
5 points on the board for Newcastle as Holy Funk comes around and fantastic heads to the penalty box.
For fans at home, if you're wondering why Mike Mann and I keep talking over each other, it's because I actually have my hand up his back. He's sitting on my lap and drinking a glass of water.
Holy funk. Off to the penalty box for a track cut. Now, Mel, the key to ventriloquism is not to both talk at the same time.
I can't believe they put us in the same room at the same time. Auckland using the tactic of hanging back, forcing out of play blocking. Mackenzie gets back to her feet and scores 5 points. That's 1 point for every player on the track and 1 point for the player in the penalty box.
Well, Renwick heading back towards the pack again, looking for more points here in this power jam. This jam will go the full 2 minutes.
It's a fair bit of intensity there on the referee's face. It's what I like to see. Holly Funk trying to push her way through using her arms.
Yeah, Holy Funk trying to make up for lost time as Renwick goes the long way back. Hippie hard ass and I think danger ass. Asses combining there to hit her to the back of the pack.
Holly Funk trying to get through the apex on one skate. However, unfortunately for her, catching a cut track. That means Newcastle will start this jam without a jammer.
Some people call that a power jam. Some even call it a power start, Mel.
I think we should avoid that lingo. Thank you to our international guests and coaches, New York Shock Exchange, San Fernando Valley, Callio Rolling Rainbow, Awkward Roller Derby. Was that for Callio? It's a very high pitch because they're from Scandinavia.
Is that the further north you go, the higher the pitch?
That's right. It's because the air is thinner there. Thanks also to Tracy Disco Ackers, Scald Eagles, Stephanie Maney, and Mr. Fury. What did I say? Of course, apologies there to Tracy. I did say Ackers, but it is acres. I was avoiding it because, you know, the whole square meterage thing confuses me. It is Ackers. You wouldn't be from Australia, would you? Her name's Ackers, mate. She's a top Sheila.
Well, we are underway. I think there's a game of roller derby going on as Mackenzie with the power start coming up some strong brace defence here.
Newcastle defending with only 3 blockers this time round. 1 sitting out in the penalty box.
Champagne Showers bracing that front wall, doing brilliantly as well. Mackenzie unable to get through.
And of course, this season we'll see a lot of that triangular form of blocking.
Champagne Showers, Danger Ass being picked up for a multiplayer. And Mackenzie gets through and picks up lead jammer with a little skip over the apex as well.
Not wanting to overstate it. She scores 4 quick points and calls that jam off. Auckland now on 22 points, 26 points. They trail to Newcastle 43 with only halfway through the first half.
Baby Cakes jamming once again for Newcastle.
Some might say she's a gluten for punishment.
And she is taking on Baker.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't write this, it gets written for us.
And Baker, if you need a sledge off the line, just turn to her and say, I made you.
Baker dusting it up there with the Newcastle blockers. And in the meantime, Baby Cakes sneaks up the inside line there with her ninja pants on. And she is lead jammer.
Baker having a harder time getting through here. Does so now, though. Keeps on her feet. Not lead jammer. Baker with a whole lap to make up here on Baby Cakes. And Baby Cakes gets through, picks up 4 points, and calls off the jam.
And Mike Mann, in these hotter conditions, we see teams having to use different tactics. It is just day one, the very beginning of day one of a 3-day tournament. All of the teams are going to get very, very tired. So we're going to see that decline as the days go on.
Yeah, hydration, the key for these teams. They've got to keep cool, keep hydrated as this tournament goes on. Air conditioning. Well, it is working in here, but these skaters are going to be hot.
Debris jamming for Newcastle. She's forced off the track. Both jammers trying to make their way through for their initial pass, but getting frustrated by some excellent blocking. Debris all over the floor. She's through, but she is not the lead jammer.
Renwick picks up lead jammer status.
That gives her the opportunity to call it from behind, which she does.
We're going to see Mackenzie up against Holy Funk now. 47 to Newcastle, place 26 to Auckland. 13 minutes to go in the first half. Mackenzie tries to burst through the middle, but only gets as far as Dangerous and Godzilla there.
Not much chance of barging your way past Dangerous or Godzilla.
Holy Funk picks up lead jammer. Mackenzie also through. And good solid jamming from Newcastle once again. 4 points, call it off. Holy Funk does the job.
Baker and Baby Cakes, a match made in heaven. They are both on the jammer line. Baby Cakes in the purple. It's kind of a royal colour, wouldn't you say, Mike Mann?
It is quite regal, isn't it? It should be furry with some white spots or something around the edging.
Made from slain polar bears or something.
In the meantime, Baby Cakes picks up lead jammer for Newcastle. Baker stuck at the front of another strong brace wall. Champagne Showers once again doing the bracing.
Auckland blocker disappointed with the referee call there, but that doesn't quite matter. Baker shoved out of the track. 5 big points there to Newcastle, lapping the Auckland jammer.
Baby Cakes approaching the back of the pack once again.
In the meantime, Baker sent off for a track cut. That leaves Auckland without a jammer. All the points will be available for Newcastle in the next jam. And this gives us an opportunity to tell you exactly who is playing today for Newcastle Roller Derby League, the Dockyard Dames. They have License to Kill, Fantastic, Carly and Tay, Dangerous, Holly Funk, Reggie Ramjet, Hippie Hardass, Debris, Baby Cakes, Godzilla, sold separately, Champagne Showers, and Thunderslut.
And for Auckland, we've got Benedicta, Rutherford, Baker, Sass, Booger, Rudge, Arsenal, Renwick, Mackenzie, Flirty Harry, and Melly slammed her. Well,
Mike Mann, did you know that if you were wearing Bont, you would be lighter, stronger, and faster?
Well, I am wearing Bont underwear, so I do feel lighter, stronger, and faster.
I like a good pair of undies. It's like a crutch hug, isn't it?
It is. It's comforting.
Thank you so much to the event sponsors, Roller Derby Heaven and Bolters. If you'd like to know what Bolter's products are like, do go on the internet and Google Bolters, B-U-L-T-E-R-S.
Debris, the only jammer on the track to start this jam, and she gets hit to the back of the pack
Arsenal
by Arsenal. Debris unable to breach the pack yet as Godzilla, sold separately, heads to the penalty box. And now she gets through Debris for lead jammer. But Baker skips her way out of the penalty box.
And of course, Auckland blockers managing to take away the advantage of that power jam. Terrific work there in defence.
Yeah, only 2 points scored in that power jam. Great work from Auckland there. Renwick stepping up to jam here for Auckland.
She's up against Holly Funk from Newcastle. Jam timer calls 5 seconds. Newcastle goes for a walk to the pivot line. Holly Funk gets squished by Auckland jammers, and in the meantime, really, when I said jammer, I meant blocker.
Well, Holly Funk, after doing some good work there, gets out for lead jammer. Renwick only just clearing the pack now. And Holly Funk with some good communication with the referees as well, screaming at them that she was calling the jam, just in case they didn't see the hands on the hips.
I think part of the problem, Mike Mann, is that these players are not using enough flourish. If they were using spirit fingers in the air, slamming it down on their hips, that would be more noticeable for the referees.
I think what we need is something that lights up when your hand hits your hip. A bit like 2020 cricket, when the ball hits the stumps, they flash now.
Christmas pants.
Yeah, the call-off pants.
I give that one a star.
Could be the latest innovation in roller derby equipment.
Nothing's coming up under Bolter. B-U-L-T-E-R. I do, but then what is it?
Do we have any idea what this is?
Oh, here we go, Bolters. Bolters, there's an auto centre in Holland. I don't know, maybe it's relatively cheap in euro.
Looks like we're ready to get underway again. Doing some research on our sponsors here in the meantime, trying to work out for you exactly who they all are and what they do. We'll bring you that information later in the day. Debris, though, jamming for Newcastle, and Mackenzie for Auckland.
We'll make something up, Jared.
And Debris picks up lead jammer here for Newcastle. Mackenzie having trouble with this front wall of the Newcastle defence.
Players hitting the ground hard, and the echo of the hard, cold concrete floor rings through Newcastle Entertainment Centre. And a big shout out to all the people watching today for the very, very first time. Roller Derby Virgins, we welcome you, and we would love you to get involved in the sport. It's a great sport. Local leagues are always looking for new people to come and volunteer and help out. And maybe you're in a position where you'd like to play as well.
Well, Booger jamming for Auckland. Thought she saw her way through. Godzilla closed it off. And Thunder for Newcastle gets through for lead jammer. Godzilla with another trip to the penalty box.
She likes to keep the seats warm there for her colleagues. Meanwhile, Booger using that very labouring style of skating. She is not the lead jammer. She would dearly like to call this jam off. But Thunder is through for a 5-point pass, obviously lapping the jammer. Newcastle keeping up a very fast pace.
Well, 0 points apiece on that pass. After that jam, Newcastle 73, Auckland 26. 6.5 minutes left in the first half.
Mike Mann, you might not know this, but the Bont Invitational is brought to you by Bont with Roller Derby Australia, Newcastle Roller Derby League and Sydney Roller Derby League.
I believe that is in partnership with Invitational. Holy Funk jamming here up against Renwick.
Nice.
Holy Funk picks up lead jammer for Newcastle. Renwick hit to the outside. Godzilla doing the hard yards again.
Renwick caught behind a wall, a triangular wall of Newcastle players. She's trying desperately to avoid being lapped there. Godzilla loving it, giving her a little cuddle with her shoulders.
Well, Godzilla was steering Caliente around the track, and then Caliente went to the front, but Godzilla picked up the slack and worked over Renwick there.
Renwick forced outside the track to avoid a track cut, and she is finally through for her initial pass.
Debris jamming once again for Newcastle, and she'll be taking on Baker for Auckland.
And of course, Roller Derby welcomes diversity. All of the tradespeople are welcome here. Baker, not the only one to be playing for Auckland, but she is the one that's trying to push her way through that Newcastle triangular defence.
And Debris is through, picks up lead jammer. Baker, though, not too far behind, gets through as well.
Baker trying to get the pace on there, sailing her way through on the straights, forcing Debris to call that jam off before any points could be scored.
Yeah, good defence from Auckland there.
Booger signalling she wants an official review.
And once again, a big thank you to our event sponsors, Roller Derby Heaven, for all your roller derby needs, and Bulters for all your event hire needs. Bulters supplying much of the equipment we're using here today. The walls you see behind us, separating the tracks, being part of that. And another big thank you to Bont for putting on, well, we're only two games in, but so far, a great event. Lots of teams here, lots of matchups, WFTDA matchups for the first time in Australia. Such a large amount of accredited leagues in the one place.
Auckland are contesting the lack of a low block call in the previous jam.
Alrighty, so referees are going to be asking each other questions, trying to establish whether or not there was a low block committed by Newcastle before the jam was called off, and it was moments before, as her arms were actually going to her hips, it's alleged that she took 2 players out.
Head referee talking to captains at the moment, just waiting for confirmation on the official review to see whether or not it will be upheld or dismissed.
After review, it is determined that the no call will stand as legal contact was made first.
There you have the confirmation. The call stands. Legal contact was made first. So Auckland will lose their official review. Only a few minutes left in the first half, though. That will, of course, reset in the second half. Mackenzie jamming up against Thunder. Mackenzie tries to get to the front, gets pushed out. License to Kell takes it the long way back, and that allows Thunder to pick up lead jammer.
And of course, this morning they were talking about the quality of the surface. Apparently it is very grippy for the skaters here, and we're seeing that when jammers are being forced to go backwards, trying to do T-stops and sort of catching on.
Yeah, skaters will be adjusting their wheel setups, I think, through the tournament to get that right, get the hardness of the wheel right for the floor. Not many of these skaters, if any, would have played at this venue. As we see Renwick jamming for Auckland. And she's up against Holy Funk. Holy Funk for Newcastle. Going to be a power jam to low block, or is that insubordination called against Renwick there? Holy Funk with the advantage here, looking to pick up the points. Lead jammer, and on a scoring pass, picks up 5 points.
And that 5 points coming from 1 for each player on the track and 1 for each player in the penalty box.
Renwick back from her misconduct penalty now.
And she makes her way through for her initial pass. And that jab called off before Auckland could do any damage there. 4 more points added to Newcastle's score. And that brings Baby Cakes back to Newcastle's jamming line. And she's up against Mackenzie from Auckland.
And a low block called against Baby Cake. She's off to the penalty box. Chance for Auckland to pick up some points here. Mackenzie picks up lead jammer nice and quickly. Godzilla says, come and get me. And Mackenzie comes off second best. Godzilla just feeling around the back there. Arms like tentacles. Where is she? There she is. I'll get her. And resets to the front. Mackenzie, nowhere to go, calls off the jam after picking up 4 points on that pass.
And a good strategy there by Auckland, calling that jam off before the Newcastle jam could return to the track. And there goes the Newcastle jammer back on the track, proving me wrong. Thank you, Thunder.
Thunder up against Baker. Well, no, it won't be. That will be half-time. Newcastle 101 plays Auckland 30. We'll be back in around 15 minutes' time with the second half action here at the Bont Invitational.
Has this ever happened to you? Fumbling your marker. Your marker's not working. Trying to scrub off those pesky markers in the shower. You forget your numbers and you're sent back to the bench.
Bench! Put your numbers on! Get those numbers on your arms!
Let's see that again.
I have a severe sweating problem. Before I got my Spank Alley armbands, the refs were always telling me to reapply my numbers. But now, I can stay in the game.
My Spank Alley armband's second as a rope. Now I can lock up the competition. Thanks, Spank Alley.
But wait, there's more. If you order now, you'll get not just one, but 2 armbands. That's one for each of your arms.
Thanks, Spank Alley!
Spank Alley armbands. Get spanked.
Test, test, test.
Has this ever happened to you? Fumbling your marker. Your marker's not working. Trying to scrub off those pesky markers in the shower. You forget your numbers and you're sent back to the bench.
Bench! Put your numbers on! Get those numbers on your arms!
Let's see that again.
I have a severe sweating problem. Before I got my Spank Alley armbands, the refs were always telling me to reapply my numbers. But now, I can stay in the game.
My Spank Alley armband's second as a rope. Now I can lock up the competition. Thanks, Spank Alley.
But wait, there's more. If you order now, you'll get not just one, but 2 armbands. That's one for each of your arms.
Thanks, Spank Alley!
Spank Alley armbands. Get spanked. Has this ever happened to you? Fumbling your marker. Your marker's not working. Trying to scrub off those pesky markers in the shower. You forget your numbers and you're sent back to the bench.
Bench! Put your numbers on! Get those numbers on your arms!
Let's see that again.
I have a severe sweating problem. Before I got my Spank Alley armbands, the refs were always telling me to reapply my numbers. But now, I can stay in the game.
My Spank Alley armband's second as a rope. Now I can lock up the competition. Thanks, Spank Alley.
But wait, there's more. If you order now, you'll get not just one, but 2 armbands. That's one for each of your arms.
Thanks, Spank Alley!
Spank Alley armbands. Get spanked.
Alrighty, we are nearly back. Newcastle Roller Derby League leading in front, which is normally where you lead from. 101 points. Playing Auckland Roller Derby League, 30 points. Both teams are working out who their first lineup is. And kicking off now, Holly Funk for Newcastle in the purple and yellow. She's up against Mackenzie in the white and blue.
Half-time just flew by, Mel. I can't believe it's already been 15 minutes. The anticipation here is building for the second half. Big comeback on the table for Auckland. Plenty of time to close that 70-point gap.
Indeed there is. These are full-length bouts that players
Has this ever happened
are
to you?
engaging in.
Fumbling your
That's gonna
marker.
take a toll by the end of this tournament. It's about 406 degrees outside, and I think inside it's significantly cooler, maybe 336 degrees. That's Celsius for those of you watching from overseas. Some helpful voices from the crowd as we poise, waiting for 5 seconds to be called.
Underway in the second half, Mackenzie looking for a quick start, but runs into a strong back wall once again, being the story of the game so far.
In the meantime, Holly Funk trying to muscle her way through, and she is lead jammer. And that, of course, is a great way to start off the second half.
Godzilla working over Mackenzie again, teaming up with License to Kel.
Holly Funk lapping the Auckland jammer. 5 points added on that round.
Good jamming there from Holly Funk. Skips away through the inside beautifully, picking up 5 points.
It's almost as if she's aquaplaning when she does that. Both feet straight up, just a little skip, and straight through. This time she takes the inside line. Long enough to score another 4 points there, and a big jam there for Holly Funk.
Baby Cakes on the jam line, up against Renwick.
Baby Cakes, of course, what we've been served for morning tea here, Mike Mann.
Yes, I enjoyed some baby cakes in the crew room just at halftime there.
Mine were of the chocolate variety. Renwick running straight into the back of Dangerous and Champagne Showers. There is no give happening there behind that Newcastle wall.
Multiplayer block called there against Auckland, is it? Rutherford heading to the penalty box for Auckland on the whistle for a multiplayer block. Newcastle doing well with those brace balls and not picking up the multiplayers either. Really, obviously been working hard at those in training as Baker lines up against Debris.
Newcastle, of course, trying to get as much debris on the track. Fantastic, keeping the Auckland blockers company while the rest of Newcastle give plenty of obstruction.
Oh, Baker tries to burst through the outside that time, but it is Debris picking up lead jammer. Baker still unable to breach the pack for the first time.
She is trying to rise to that challenge, Mike Mann. But in the meantime, Debris through for another 5, lapping Baker. More big points for Newcastle.
Newcastle lose Thunder to the penalty box as Baker gets through, and a big hit by Sass. Both players go screaming to the outside. Debris calls off the jam from the ground.
And Mike Mann, of course, Newcastle being the home team, having the advantage of having the crowd behind them. You can hear that roar every time they go through for a pass, and certainly that does get louder when it's a 5-pointer.
Holly Funk jamming for the locals. Mackenzie doing some strong work at the front of the pack here. And picking up lead jammer for Auckland. The Auckland fans going wild in the stands there.
Yes, mate, man. Unfortunately, security are having to round some of them up there. They've been throwing like babies into the air to celebrate, smashing chairs and the like. Too much activity there, but there is some activity on the track there. 3 points for Auckland.
1, 2, 3, plays 33.
Baby Cakes, not sick of our puns yet. She's back on the jammer line for Newcastle.
I think she stopped listening to us a long time ago, Mel.
Possibly most listeners would have. Renwick on the jammer line for Auckland. Auckland mushing the Baby Cakes, not letting her through.
Another lead jammer to Auckland, 2 in a row as Renwick bursts through the pack. Baby Cakes, though, following close behind.
A fair bit of speed on both of those jammers. They, of course, have relatively fresh legs, stopping any points from being scored in that jam.
Newcastle with just the 2 skaters on the track in the pack there, and Debris on the jammer line up against Baker. Auckland with a full complement.
And of course, players will score 1 point for every player on the track and 1 point for every player in the penalty box.
Once again, Auckland pick up lead jammer, Baker. Baker using that pack advantage well as Debris clears the pack now. Baker already round, looking to score the points though. Dangerous holds her up, but not before she picks up 4 points and calls off the jam.
Baker looking very proud of herself, and well, she should be. That was some good work there, getting those hips past those players.
Mackenzie jamming for Auckland, and she's up against Holly Funk.
Booger sticking to Holly Funk there, trying to spoil her opportunity to get through. She does make the initial pass, but Auckland are out in front. Mackenzie lead jammer status.
Oh, Mackenzie skating so hard around that corner, she almost lost her wheels. Recovered well.
And Mike Mann, of course, if she did lose her wheels, she would be able to talk to one of our event sponsors, Roller Derby Heaven, who would be able to help her out with some gear. We also have Bolters, who are event management people. They've provided us with all of the nice things that we have, tables and chairs and divider screens, and maybe they'll give me a puppy.
Renwick up against Debris here. Auckland on a bit of a roll, picking up lead jammer the last probably 4, now 5, I think, in a row.
Auckland certainly trying to fight back stronger. Bench coach Beaver Destruction starting to show a little bit of a waver in her instructions.
And Renwick calls off the jam, picking up just the 1 point, but more importantly, preventing Newcastle scoring any points in that jam.
Baby Cakes and Baker, the obvious choice for jammers. Auckland in the white and blue. Let's see if they can make it out as lead jammer one more time. This is the 8th jam for the second half.
Baker having trouble with that back wall this time, working hard though, and Baby Cakes stuck at the back. Arsenal doing a great job along with Booger there.
But there is a multiplayer block being called on Auckland there, allowing Baby Cakes to make her way through as lead jammer. Baker getting held up there by Dangerous.
And Dangerous picks up the use of forearms penalty off to the penalty box. Baker gets through.
You know, Mike Mann, she didn't look very contrite about her mistake just then.
Not at all. As that jam comes to an end, another 4 points on the board for Newcastle.
And players who are called for a penalty do serve 30 seconds in the penalty box.
Big hit off the line. Arsenal goes down hard as Holly Funk picks up lead jammer. Mackenzie right behind her. It's good jammer on jammer action. Holly Funk takes on Mackenzie. Mackenzie comes off the better. Holly Funk calls off the jam. Newcastle calling a timeout here. Thanks again to Bont, lighter, stronger and faster. And also our event sponsors, Roller Derby Heaven and Bolters.
We do have vendors and team merchandise at near this track 1. We can see all the big brands selling their wares and different leagues, bringing along their T-shirts. That way we look handsome, Mike Man.
Baker up against Debris this time.
Blockers choosing to use the pivot line, this time Auckland in front. Baker barging her way through there.
It is a back block though against Baker. She's going to the penalty box and it is Debris who picks up lead jammer for Newcastle.
Auckland with the pack advantage, but no jammer on the track.
Debris doing some good work, weaving in and out of those Auckland blockers and picking up 5 points on that pass.
Debris doing much the same again, bumping and muscling her way through for 5 more points.
Baker rejoins the pack now. Does some good work herself. Determined skating there, sees her get through. And she's going to have a power jam reversal here as Debris goes for a back block herself.
And that, of course, Mike Man, that means that this jam will go for the full 2 minutes. Not really what players look forward to on a day that it's as hot as this.
Absolutely not. Short jams are the order of the day as Baker picks up a big hit there.
However, she's through on the outside and gives her team 5 points. Lots of instructions being called there from the sidelines. Not necessarily helpful to the teams. Baker jostling and caught behind a wall of Newcastle, only just making her way through, scores that final round of 5 points. In the meantime, Debris being forced out of bounds. However, referee Pombat calling a cut track. I'm not sure who that was to. I think it was debris.
Yeah, I believe you're right there. Debris in the penalty box. That means Mackenzie will be the only jammer on the track. Well, we're going to see an official timeout here. Head referee Harry Spotter just, I think, perhaps overruling there and bringing the jammer out of the penalty box.
And that means the debris gets to have a sit down on the bench while Baby Cake takes over the duties of jamming for Newcastle.
Mackenzie tries to burst away through the pack, only gets as far as Champagne Showers. And a track cut picked up by Baby Cakes means another power jam here for Auckland. And Mackenzie this time bursts her way through, almost tripping over Godzilla, making it through though.
Of course, as players get more tired, more mistakes are being made. There's still 17 minutes left on this second half. In the meantime, Mackenzie ducking and weaving, trying to get past Godzilla. Being forced out of bounds, having to return to behind the pack. In meantime, time has elapsed on that penalty for Baby Cakes.
Yeah, Godzilla and Fantastic teaming up. Also with Champagne Showers there doing some great work. Baby Cakes gets through for her initial pass there. As Mackenzie picks up a back block, so another power jam. Two power jams in the one jam. This time, advantage Newcastle. And this will also go the full 2 minutes, Mel.
Baby Cakes, that look of utter determination there, skipping through the wall and back for more. And you hear the cries from the blockers, baby, baby, baby. And ooh, baby, she is through for 5 more points.
Newcastle blockers at a standstill as Baby Cakes approaches the pack quickly and gets through just as quickly for 5 points. Auckland decide to call it a timeout.
And this is a good opportunity to say thank you to our international guests and coaches. They include the New York Shock Exchange, San Fernando Valley, Callio Rolling Rainbow, Auckland Roller Derby League, Tracy Disco Ackers, Scald Eagle, Stephanie Maney, and Mr. Fury. Beaver Destruction threatening members of the crowd here, quite appropriately, I think. Just keep it tied up there, thanks. Renwick returning to the jam line for Auckland. She's up against Holly Funk from Newcastle.
Both jammers looking for some space up the middle. Holly Funk. She was hit out by Arsenal, but Arsenal heads to the penalty box, and so does Renwick for a track cut. Advantage Newcastle, power jam and lead jammer to Holly Funk.
5 more points added to Newcastle's score. They certainly have a comfortable lead here today.
Another 5 on the board for Holly Funk. And opens up for her on the inside. Thunder doing the hard yards for her jammer there. This time we got Mackenzie up against Debris.
Auckland blockers headed to the pivot line. Newcastle hanging in the middle. That tactic didn't work for them. Auckland busting through for lead jammer status.
Debris clears the pack now. Baker hits to the outside. Newcastle takes her the long way back as Baker calls off the jam, picking up 1 point and ensuring Debris is unable to score.
Renwick back on the jammer line for Auckland. She's up against Baby Cakes from Newcastle.
Renwick just one to beat at the front, and she gets her hips in front, picks up lead jammer just as Baby Cakes comes through as well. Renwick not wasting any time on the clock there, calls off the jam nice and quickly.
And of course that tactic does work when you're a little behind, and she certainly is a little behind.
Booger now jamming for Auckland. First time we've seen Booger in quite a while, maybe first time this half. And she's up against Holly Funk for Newcastle.
Booger stuck behind the wall of Newcastle blockers. In the meantime, Holly Funk busts on through. She is lead jammer.
Good work from Holly Funk, getting some help there from Reggie Ramjet.
Indeed, making it look easy for her. Jammers are only ever as good as the blockers let them be.
Another 4 points to Newcastle as Holly Funk calls off the jam. And Champagne Showers signalling to a bench that she picked up a penalty on the whistle and will be sitting in the penalty box for the next 30 seconds. Baby Cakes up against Mackenzie this time.
Mackenzie not letting her weight disadvantage her. She's trying to muscle her way through a mishmash of Newcastle blockers.
Well done, Mackenzie. Makes her way through some strong jamming again. Baby Cakes now also through, but Mackenzie, well, gets through that depleted pack of Newcastle. Just the one license to kill out there. Looking over at the board in the middle, and a big line through number 11 for Newcastle. Dangerous has fouled out of this game.
Auckland wasting no time about that. Straight through for lead jammer. So who's the woman you were talking to as we were walking back in?
Lizzie.
Lizzie, that's it.
Yeah, she's head ref for this. You remember her from Sydney?
Yeah.
She got bumped over as well.
Fancy that.
Let's have a big hand for Rutherford. Sorry for the delay for those watching on at home as well. Of course, we are obliged to let the medics do their work while on the house call, which you're also listening to at home. St. John Ambulance doing a great job as usual.
So both teams will get 30 seconds more. Jam timer indicating the end of the timeout. So 30 seconds from now, the jam will start. We've got Baker back on the jam line for Auckland. And she's up against Holly Funk from Newcastle.
Jam underway, and Holly Funk through quickly for lead jammer.
She wastes no time with these jams.
Baker, though, also through quickly, but Holly Funk looking to score the points. Running into a solid back wall here. Holly picks up 2 points and calls off the jam. Baker unable to score. Renwick this time up against Debris. And a non-committal pack, not on the jam line or the pivot line, somewhere in no man's land.
Hanging about. And Renwick sent off to the penalty box for using her forearms, trying to get through the Newcastle blockers. That gives Debris the ability to score all of the points in this power jam.
Debris with a wrestle at the front of the pack, gets hit out.
Yeah, decides to.
Debris takes the safe route to the back of the pack and gets through, picks up her 5 points.
Debris utilising the expertise of Beaver Destruction there, the bench manager for Newcastle.
Debris once again hit to the inside of the track this time, goes to all the way to the back and calls off the jam. Good jam, another 4 points on the board for Newcastle as they approach that 200 mark now.
Baby Cakes from Newcastle up against Mackenzie from Auckland. Auckland choosing to be in the front of the pack. Mackenzie taking a big booty block there. Still not managing to get past those Newcastle blockers. In the meantime, Baby Cakes out in front with lead jammer. Newcastle indicating with twinkly fingers to score 4 quick points, then call it off. Newcastle giving their regular jammers a bit of a rest, putting Fantastic on the jammer line. She's up against Renwick.
And it is Renwick who picks up a lead jammer. Fantastic, stuck at the back of this pack, gets hit to the outside once again. Recovers though and gets through for her initial pass. Renwick looking to score some points, comes up against Godzilla, who hits her out at the front of the pack. And that will be 2 points to Auckland, 0 points to Newcastle.
And while referees have conferred with Newcastle, we would like to remind you that if you do the Bont thing, you will be lighter, stronger and faster.
Lead jammer goes to Newcastle through Holly Funk.
Yes.
And Booger, strong jamming for Auckland. Bulldozes her way through, picks up, or get her initial pass. Holly Funk, though, calls off the jam before Booger has a chance to score.
Just over 4 minutes left on the scoreboard. Mike Mann scoring a point for his own commentary. And we see Baby Cakes on the jammer line for Newcastle. She's up against Mackenzie, trying to muscle her way through that triangular defence of Newcastle. Managing to draw a multiplayer block. Newcastle is through for lead jammer status.
Baby Cakes with the advantage coming round, looking to score points. Mackenzie was only just completing her initial pass. Baby Cakes decides to keep going in this one, even with Mackenzie out in front. It's like Newcastle running a fast pack as well. Soaking up the clock there. Only 3 minutes left in the game. Baby Cakes with the advantage in that jam for Newcastle. Renwick jamming for Auckland, fantastic. Fantastic. And for Newcastle, and it is fantastic, who picks up lead jammer. Fantastic jamming from Fantastic as she calls off the jam. Less than 2 minutes remain now as we see a timeout called.
And all you fans hanging around, there are some more games on today. Next up on track one, we have the San Fernando Valley up against Convict City from Tasmania. Did someone say Convict City? No, apparently not.
And Mackenzie picks up lead jammer for Auckland. Good jamming once again. Mackenzie's been great in this second half, really muscling her way through the pack. 4 points on the board for Mackenzie in Auckland. Holly Funk has made her initial pass. So Mackenzie decides to call off the jam as Baby Cakes and Renwick step up to the jam line. Both jammers hit the back of the pack, but going nowhere at the moment. Baby Cakes on the inside of the track trying to muscle her way through, but Renwick finds the gap that Baby Cakes couldn't. Baby Cakes follows her close behind. And Renwick calls off the jam there. Just enough time to get one more jam started here. Baker taking on Fantastic. Long run up to the pack on the jam line, on the pivot line, sorry. And it is Fantastic who breaks through for lead jammer as Baker gets through. Holly Funk didn't want to let it go there. And Fantastic calls off the jam, picking up 2 points, and that will be the unofficial final score. 2-1-2 to Newcastle, plays 64 to Auckland. Of course, stand by for upcoming games, but also we will have a couple of interviews, hopefully, with the captains of the respective teams here. There it is. Final score, 2-1-2 to Newcastle, 64 to Auckland. Both teams with a solid start to their Bont Invitational here. We'll have interviews very shortly with Godzilla and also with Booger. I'm here with Godzilla, and Godzilla, great way to open your Bont Invitational.
Better than expected. It was a really fabulous game. Really happy with how the team worked this morning.
And you were a bit of a force out there as usual, taking on the jammers. You've got a bit of a magnetic attraction to the star on the helmet, I think.
It helps a lot. I'm not that agile, so when they skate at me, it makes me look good. So probably about $50 to each player before the game seems to work.
And how did you find Auckland out there today? I'll leave that one alone. Any type of bribery is unknown to the commentators. It doesn't happen. How did you find Auckland out there? Look like some strong defence. We've got a bit of a backdrop here. Yeah. Nice twerking. Very nice twerking, ladies. Have you been practicing that twerking in training?
That's basically all we do, is twerking, couple of walls, bit of offense, then we do twerking again. That's pretty much it. That's how we train.
It seems to be working well for you, so I'd say keep it up. I'm not sure if we're going to get Booger over here. She's busy with a selfie stick. So we might just wrap it up there. I think. Okay, Booger, how did you find playing Newcastle here today? This is going out. This will be archived, I hope. So, Booger, make sure you look at that later. All right, thanks, Godzilla, and congratulations again on a great start to your tournament.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.